They're a generation of angry young Muslim men.
You can go to any youth on the street and say, do you believe in jihad? They say, yeah. Do you believe that Al-Qaeda are a terrorist movement? They say, no.
We're living at a time of war because the Western world's not letting anyone live in peace.
And on Christmas Day, one young extremist tried to turn his radical anger into terrifying violence. Umar Abdul Muttalib from Nigeria boarded a plane to Detroit with high explosives concealed in his underwear. Just 23 years old, Abdul Muttalib is the latest young Muslim to have attempted mass murder. He spent 3 years at London University. For this series, I've worked for a year investigating who these young people are and how they come to be radicalized.
Generation Jihad is smart, well-educated, living in place.
पहले तो आप समझिए जिहाद का मतलब होता क्या है। इस्लामी परंपरा में जिहाद का मतलब संघर्ष या प्रयास होता है। यह आत्मिक, सामाजिक और धार्मिक संघर्ष हो सकता है, लेकिन कुछ कट्टरपंथी समूहों ने इसका अर्थ धार्मिक युद्ध या हिंसक संघर्ष के रूप में तोड़ मरोड़ कर पेश किया है। यूके में कट्टर
Small group of radicalized young men now constitute the single biggest threat to our national security. My journey began in West Yorkshire, home to 2 million people, also home to 3 of the 7/7 bombers who attacked London in July 2005. I wanted to find out why some of Britain's young extremists are prepared to support violence against their fellow citizens. Yorkshire is a proud place, I know, because that's where I come from too. Bradford, Leeds, Huddersfield, Halifax, Dewsbury, cities and towns still rich in their industrial heritage. Over the years, thousands of Pakistani families have also been proud to put down their roots here and make parts of these old mill towns their own. But recently, this area has come under intense scrutiny from police forces and intelligence services, not just from the UK, but from around the world. That's because West Yorkshire has become home to a generation of young jihadis, and to Britain's youngest convicted terrorist. The terraced streets of Savile Town, a small community on the southern edge of Dewsbury, are home to 5,000 people. It's a largely Asian area, unremarkable in almost every way.
Savile Town is a very, very tight community. Everything that you do, everything that you say does get back to other people. If you're doing anything wrong, or if you're doing something great, if you've just graduated, if you get married, everybody knows your business.
Hamad Munshi went to Westborough High School, the local comprehensive. His classmates and family in Savile Town thought they knew Hamad well, an ordinary schoolboy studying for his GCSEs.
Hamad was a normal boy, and the reason why I say this is because you'd never hear anything about him. The fact that nobody ever talked about Hamad, you know, it's proof in itself that the lad himself was a good little boy who did listen to his parents and generally stayed out of trouble.
But from the age of 15, Hamad had been living a secret life. While his parents thought he was studying in his bedroom, he was logging on to extremist websites and chat rooms. He soon became radicalized and vulnerable to grooming by hardened jihadis. His private writings show how far he had gone.
The reason I have gone so early into this house of war is because of the beautiful act of fighting in putting Allah's word high above all. I do not want to stay in this country of disbelief. Please pray for me that I get martyred in a state of true faith.
Within months, he was wired into a serious jihadi cell. Without his parents knowing, he met a Bradford man who was one of the key figures in the network that was planning terrorist attacks in Europe and North America. But police had some of the group under surveillance. One summer afternoon, as Munshi was walking home from school, the police moved in.
His house is now being searched by police, investigating an alleged terrorist plot.
When I first heard about the house being raided, I was at home watching the news. This is when I first saw this, and I didn't believe it. I mean, there's just no way that this was happening to this family. When I did approach the street, when I did approach the house, there were a lot of people stood there. Everybody was just confused as to what was going on.
In his rucksack, the schoolboy was carrying 2 bags of ball bearings, similar to those used in suicide bombs. Police then searched his room. What was the evidence against Hamad Munshi? What did you find?
तुर्की में कट्टरपंथ कैसे फैला? प्रवासी समुदाय, कई मुस्लिम समुदाय, खासकर पाकिस्तान, बांग्लादेश और मिडिल ईस्ट से आकर ब्रिटेन में बसे। इनमें से कुछ समुदायों में धार्मिक कट्टरता ने जड़ें पकड़ी। मस्जिदों और धार्मिक स्कूलों जैसे मदरसा में कट्टर शिक्षा कुछ
Hamad's father and grandfather are both moderate imams who command great respect and authority in the community.
Maulana Yaqub, the grandfather, was very much, in a sense, liberal. I mean, you used to get a lot of people saying, oh, well, you have to do this, you have to do that. With Maulana Yaqub, it was a case of, well, why are you doing it? You know, understanding behind it, so when you did do it, you knew why you were doing what you were doing.
Where the TV is.
Community policeman Mohammed Aziz never saw Munshi as a potential terrorist, far from it.
Whenever they wanted to do work.
I've known the family for a very long time whilst working in Dewsbury. I've known the grandfather, the uncles of Munshi. A very educated family and a very understanding family as well. From my information, this young lad's been radicalised by a group.
Hamad was definitely radicalised. I mean, look at him, he's 15 years old, he's a young kid. Hamad was groomed and it was done intentionally. They knew exactly what they were doing with Hamad.
We met the Munshi family several times while researching this programme, but they declined to be interviewed on camera. They said they and Hamad had suffered enough. The shock was still raw. Did Hamad Munshi's family have any idea what he was doing on the internet?
From what we spoke to them, no, they had no idea at all. Again, it's that warning, isn't it, about the internet and parents.
Teenagers isolate themselves, they go lock themselves in their rooms and they're on their little phone gadgets or they're on their internet. They're doing their own thing. And whilst mummy downstairs has got the big Indian channel on with watching her favourite Bollywood dances, oblivious to what her children are actually getting up to. And I think that we need to actually, that is a real issue in the Pakistani home.
Hamad probably wanted to be a big man. Hamad probably wanted to, you know, get attention from other people to see, well, look, this is what it's like. This is the frustration. If you guys aren't going to do anything, then I'm definitely going to do something. He wanted people to see what was going on, and he wanted people to stand up, wake up, and notice what is going on in the world and how we're so isolated from his warped truth.
Hamad Munshi was found guilty of possessing information likely to be useful to terrorists. He was sentenced to 2 years, making him, at 18, Britain's youngest convicted terrorist. And Munshi wasn't the only young jihadi who was stopped before an attack. MI5 reckons there are around 2,000 extremists in the UK who pose a potential threat, plus an unknown number of sympathisers. One of those sympathisers was Umar Abdul Muttalib, who tried to blow up a plane over Detroit. As a schoolboy in Nigeria, he had, just like Ahmad Munshi, discovered extreme Islam and posted his jihadi fantasies on the internet. His radicalisation grew during his 3 years at University College London. But just what drives these young men to extremism? It's exceptionally difficult to talk to those who've fallen foul of Britain's anti-terror laws. They often view the media as the enemy. But we did find two who were prepared to speak to a Muslim colleague. Rizwan Ditta was born and bred in Halifax. Like Ahmad Munshi, he discovered radical Islam in his teens. He's one of the angry voices of Generation Jihad.
You can go to any youth on the street and say, do you believe in jihad? They say, yes. Do you believe that Al-Qaeda are a terrorist movement? They say, no.
Last year, Ditta was released from prison after being sentenced to 4 years for terrorism offences similar to Munshi's. He's now out on licence with strict conditions.
I can't leave the address that I'm registered to be at between the hours of 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. I had to dedicate a mosque that I'll be going to regularly on Fridays just so they know where I am. And then at the same time, that mosque that I attend, they put cameras in there. And the imam was approached and he was spoken to, and my case was shown to the imam, and they go, this is the guy, and you can attend your mosque, and that kind of thing.
Bilal Muhammad is Rizwan Ditta's friend. He too was born and bred in Halifax.
We come from a small town, from a small neighbourhood, so to be honest, everyone knows everyone. We go to the same mosque and that kind of thing, and I knew when he started practicing and all that, so I got to know him really well, and he was a very close friend, and I was a very close friend of the family's.
Muhammad had a market stall selling DVDs and videos about Islam. Some of them extended into the more extreme political aspects of his faith.
The political section I had on my stall was the truth, and I wanted to promote that, to let the wider audience know, because I do believe the general person living in the West is brainwashed by the media.
Muhammad's politics would probably be unpalatable to many of us.
We're living at a time of war because the Western world's not letting anyone live in peace. It's the West who are at war with everyone. It's the West who started this war. If this country had to be attacked tomorrow by your neighbours or anyone else, it'd only be natural for you to defend this country. So why is it always different when Muslims get attacked? It's seen as terrorism.
Like his friend Rizwan Ditta, Bilal Muhammad has also been charged under Britain's anti-terror laws. He has the dubious distinction of being the first person to be sentenced under the new and contentious offence of glorifying terrorism. He served 2 years in prison.
I was the first, I don't think I'm going to be the last. I mean, I think this law just quietens every single Muslim up, where they can't express or feel their views. That's the thing that they want to remove from the people's hearts and minds, and that's the thing that want to stop people knowing from it.
I see it as a generation that have grown up, that are now conscious of who they are. They've learned their identity, and basically they've recognized the state of the Muslims globally, and they want to do something about it. So it's not a case of Generation Jihad, it's a generation of Muslims who are woken up. Everything in life it links back to Islam, from the way I dress to the way I deal with my family, everything. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
even now, as I'm sat in the barbers getting my beard trim, I'm only going to trim it to a certain length because I can't trim it fully off. It's a practice of our blessed Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, to keep the beard as a Muslim. It's part of our identity, and that's what we do. Islam has its own Sharia, it has its own rules and laws, and it has its own way of how we conduct ourselves, whether it's in marriage, whether it's in business, economics, social, judicial, everything. Islam has an answer and solution for everything.
But most British Muslims have a far less literal interpretation of Islam.
There seems to be a very small number of people that are bought into this bizarre cult that to be a Muslim, you've got to follow the kind of societal, cultural protocols of 6th century Arabia. Yeah, now, I mean, what does that actually mean? Yeah, in terms of, it means you can't engage with the 21st century.
So how did these divisions in British Islam arise? Rizwan Ditta's background is no different from the majority of British Muslims.
My family originated from Pakistan, but the origins and the stories, like many other people, came here in the 70s, economic migrants, and just been doing the same thing ever since, working hard, establishing life here and raising us. I haven't come from an affluent background, but at the same time I never was, I've never been a victim of, you could say, poverty or any kind of, family breakup or any problems like that. I never had anything like that.
Ditta's father arrived in Britain in 1969, part of the last big wave of Pakistani immigrants who were arriving in the 50s and 60s. He went to work in Nestlé's chocolate factory in York. Like most new arrivals from Pakistan, Ditta's family were Barelvis, followers of a moderate school of Islam. Most of the
पॉप कंसर्ट में हमला किया जिसमें 22 लोग मारे गए। सरकार की क्या प्रतिक्रिया रही इसके बारे में भी मैं बता रहा हूँ। कट्टरपंथ से निपटने के लिए प्रिवेंट स्ट्रेटजी लाई गई जो संभावित आतंकी गतिविधियों को रोकने पर केंद्रित है। मुस्लिम समुदाय को शिक्षा और विकास के जरिए मुख्यधारा में लाने की कोशिश की गई। इस पे चिंता और क्या बहस है। कुछ लोगों का मानना है कि इस्लामोफोबिया के चलते पूरे मुस्लिम समुदाय को शक की निगाह से देखा जाता है। वहीं कुछ लोगों का मानना है कि कट्टरपंथी तत्वों पर सख्ती जरूरत है। वीडियो में आपकी क्या राय है? प्लीज़ कमेंट सेक्शन में आप अपनी राय जरूर दीजिए और चैनल को लाइक एंड सब्सक्राइब जरूर करें।
To live happily alongside mainstream British culture. By the early 80s, Rizwan Ditta was attending primary school in Halifax.
The schools were predominantly white, they were predominantly English children. And then slowly, bit by bit, you had more and more Asian students there. So when I first went to my secondary school, it was predominantly white. Friends were mixed. Friends were whether Asian or English.
Bilal Muhammad started school in Halifax a couple of years later. By then, attitudes had begun to change.
Growing up was quite tough. Back in the 80s, there was quite a lot of racism. Primary school wasn't too bad, but growing up, going out to the local areas would sometimes